We have breaking news this afternoon. The Director of National Intelligence has released a report concluding that Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman approved the assassination of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi in 2018. The report bases its assessment on the Crown Prince's control over decision-making in the kingdom, the involvement of key members of the Crown Prince's team, and his support for using violent measures to silence dissidents like Khashoggi.
So let's get right to senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell and ABC News contributor Mick Mulroy, who was Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense when Khashoggi was killed. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. Ian, I'll start with you. This report confirms what most have suspected for more than a year now. How strong is the evidence against the Crown Prince, and what happens now?
I think the short answer is we don't really know how strong the evidence is because we're not really presented with the full detail of what, if anything, amounted to a smoking gun in this case. Now, we knew that the intelligence community had already assessed, although we didn't see the details of it, that Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, had effectively sanctioned or ordered the attempt to either kidnap or kill Jamal Khashoggi. This was back in October 2018 at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, and we spent weeks outside as the Saudis came up with story after story about what happened. First of all, they said, oh no, he'd left the consulate. Then they said, no, they had gone there, but they just attempted to persuade him to leave. Then they said there'd been some kind of fight. Eventually, they admitted that there had been murder. So the suspicion had always fallen on Mohammed bin Salman. Why? Because it's effectively a one-part, no-party, it's a royal family that runs the country, but it's an authoritarian state. I mean, all decisions are made from the top, from the centre, and that is effectively Mohammed bin Salman. So the suspicion had always been that he had ordered it. The Trump administration definitely pulled its punches on that in the eyes of a lot of critics, the Washington Post not least, amongst them saying that they were refusing to blame the Saudis and MBS in particular because of their close relationship, because they wanted to rely on specific deals in particular around arms. So now we're hearing that the assessment is, and it is an assessment, that MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, approved the assassination, but it is still an assessment. If there's real hard evidence out there, if they have an audio recording, for example, well, we certainly haven't seen it or heard it.
Mick Mulroy, you were the top Pentagon official overseeing the Middle East at the time of Khashoggi's assassination. I can't imagine how challenging it must have been to try to investigate this, understand its implications for our relations with Saudi Arabia. And so what was your reaction seeing this report today?
So like many, I don't think it was a surprise. We had seen almost immediately after Mr. Khashoggi was killed in Istanbul in October of 2018, media reports the CIA had almost immediately determined that MBS was likely the approver behind this operation. So I don't think it's a surprise. I do think it's indicative that this administration is going to take a different perspective when it comes to U.S.-Saudi relationships, at least and especially as it relates to Mohammed bin Salman. That said, to your question, Saudi Arabia is and always will be an important partner to the United States in our national security interest in the Middle East. I think the Biden administration has made it clear that that won't change. I think this is specifically about the actions that led to the killing of Mr. Khashoggi. And you can see the different policies that are coming out of the State Department today regarding visas and the Treasury Department regarding sanctions. I think that is where the efforts are going to be focused and should be focused.
And Ian, President Biden spoke with King Salman of Saudi Arabia yesterday ahead of the release of this report. Now, the White House press secretary wouldn't say directly if Biden brought up Khashoggi during that call. What do we know about their conversation?
Yeah, you're right. And look, Nick nodded towards it there. This is very, very delicate business. Saudi Arabia continues to be an absolutely key partner for the United States in the Middle East for a whole number of reasons. Whether it's a buffer to Iran, whether it's for energy requirements, whether it's as a buffer to other forces around the region. So that relationship is absolutely key. We know, according to the White House readout, that they tried to stress the importance of respecting human human rights. For example, the recent release of a highly sort of high-profile female activist who'd been held in prison in Saudi Arabia for years, despite there being a lot of pressure from human rights organizations to have a release. The Trump administration didn't apply certainly direct public pressure on that. We're now hearing that this is something that the Biden administration thanked the Saudis for releasing her and obviously wants to see more steps in that direction. It feels to me, though, that a lot of this is as little as you can get away with. This is a political readjustment, of course. It's a marking down, if you like, of Mohammed bin Salman in terms of his political status. But I think in the long term, it's hard to see that that relationship changes. And if I can put your attention back to this so-called Davos in the desert, this future investment conference that takes place in Saudi Arabia, you remember the first one that took place after the murder of Khashoggi. There was a lot of pressure on those big companies, those big Wall Street investors and companies to boycott the ceremony. A lot of them didn't attend at the time. Well, this time around, nobody really paid any attention. There wasn't the same pressure, and lots of them turned up. So in terms of the bottom line, the dollar in the pocket, I'm not so sure this is really going to hurt the Saudis much. I think for MBS in particular, his relationship with the Biden administration is going to be difficult. But otherwise, I think, broadly speaking, it's probably going to be fairly much business as usual.
And Mick, can you elaborate on that relationship a little bit between the U.S. and Saudi Arabia now that President Biden took office? How has it changed, and how do you see it evolving?
So both under the Obama administration and the Trump administration, the U.S. military provided support to the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen, particularly their air campaign. And that support was both defensive intelligence, side-by-side coaching on how to conduct the air campaign, and then refueling of aircraft. The refueling of aircraft was ended about 2 years ago. So the only remaining things that the U.S. military did was the intelligence and the side-by-side. And that is what the Biden administration ended. The other things they ended is actually not the province of the Defense Department, and that is the sale of weapons and munitions to Saudi Arabia. And that was curtailed somewhat, at least for offensive weapons. But to your overall point, Saudi Arabia is key to the stability of the region. It's key in our efforts against Iran and their malign activities in the region, and hopefully getting back to another nuclear agreement that we can all agree to, so we can curtail their efforts to get a nuclear weapon. So Saudi Arabia is a player in all of the above, and it is a key country that, as Ian said, it's not going to change that much. I think most of what will change will be a relationship with the Crown Prince.
And Mick, if I could switch to another important development. Last night, President Biden ordered his first military action as president. The airstrike targeted the Iranian-backed militia groups in Syria believed to be responsible for the attack on a coalition base in Iraq last week. Sources say the president chose the least lethal option. So what are these strikes designed to accomplish? What do they tell you, especially the way they were authorized legally, about the Biden approach to the thorny problem of Syria?
So to start with, Terry, I don't know whether he picked the least significant option or not, but I would say that the choice of doing it in Syria was smart, because any activities that we did in Iraq could cause issues to the government of Iraq and politically. So I think it was quite smart to do the retaliation for the attack in Erbil, which killed an American and injured many others in Syria, prevents that political blowback against the government of Iraq. So I'd say that's one significant thing. The other significant thing is it shows that the Biden administration is not going to take these attacks by Iranian-backed militias lying down, so to speak. They are going to respond, and that is important because they need to understand that there are consequences to their actions, and quite frankly, the Iranians need to understand that they cannot hide behind their proxy forces and attack the United States.
All right, Ian Pannell and Mick Mulroy, great to have you both. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.